Okay, this is a demo how to write the code for a simple number guessing game. So the idea behind this game is that the user will enter a guess between 1 and 5. The game will have randomly generated a number between 1 and 5 just before the user's guess, and then it will compare the user's guess to the random number which it has generated and see if the user has guessed correctly. Okay, so we'll start off with a class called the game. The first thing, as with all classes, is to think about the variables that we need for our class. Now, here we're going to declare class level variables which will be accessible by all methods within this class. So this game, the main thing it's going to do is generate a number which is to be guessed. So let's add a private int number to guess and start it at 0. Later on, when the user decides to play the game, we will give this variable a random value between 1 and 5. Next, we need to declare and create an instance of the random class which belongs to Java. It's one of the built-in classes in Java, and it has methods which allow us to generate random numbers. Okay, so we have to include import java.util.random at the top for that. Next, we're going to declare a variable called number of correct guesses number of guesses correct in a row. So what this game is also going to do is track the number of times that a user has guessed correctly in a row. So if they play the game 3 times and they guess the correct number 3 times, this will be at the value 3. And the user will be able to query that value at any stage, so see how many they have got correct in a row. So first off, let's create a method which will be called when the user wants to play the game. So a very simple method, play the game. So when the user decides to play the game, the first thing we will want to do is to generate a random number. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll declare an int called random num, and it will equal rand dot next int. Now if we want to limit the maximum value which we want to generate a random int for, we should put an int value in here, and for that we should use a constant, so that it's very clear off the top of the game what the maximum value that the user has to guess is. So we can declare that up the top here at class level, but make it static final and public as per normal practices with constants. So we can then use that in here, max number, or we could say the game.max number. It doesn't matter. The fact that we're in the game class, we could do either. And if we were accessing this max number variable outside this class, we would always have to use the game.max number. Okay, so that generates the random number. So the next thing is to ask the user for their guess. So we declare a variable here called user's guess. sorry, I just noticed something here. Actually, we shouldn't be using a local variable here. We have declared a variable up the top, the number to guess, so we should be using that variable. But here, within this method, we are going to use a local variable to capture the user's guess. Okay, so for that we're going to need to create a scanner. And as usual, import java.util.scanner. Prompt the user, so please enter your guess from 1 to, in this case we can use max number. Concatenate that in, and then close off our brackets again. So whatever we set for max number up here, the message here will use that. So please enter your guess 1 to, in this case, 5. Obviously we could change max number up to 10, and 10 would be replaced here. So user's guess is going to equal keyboard.nextInt. So the next thing we want to do is do the comparison of the guess versus the random number. So the first possible case is that they've got it right. So if user's guess equals the number to guess, then we print out a message to them saying, congratulations, you are right. And what we should also do here is add 1 onto the number of correct guesses in a row. So number of correct guesses in a row, plus plus. The next possible case is if the user's guess was out of range. So if the user's guess was greater than the game dot max number, we can just print out an information message saying number out of range. Try again. So that's two cases, either it's the correct answer or they're out of range. The only other possible scenario is that they're within range but they're wrong. So else lucky, you're wrong. Now remember in this case as well that if they have had a number of correct guesses in a row, they may be up to 2 for example, at this point it should get set back to 0 if they have finished their run of correct guesses. Okay, the next thing would be a method to print out the number of guesses that they've had in a row. So public void print number of guesses in a row. Okay, so the nice thing here is that we were using number of guesses correct in a row within the play the game method because its scope is the class, and we can also access it here, so we don't need to pass it from anywhere else. correct number of guesses in a row is, and then we concatenate on the value of the variable at the class level above. And just to show that we can use a couple of class level variables, we could print out, for example, the last value that guessed correctly. So the last value you guessed correctly is the number to guess. Okay, so if up here, as I did initially by mistake, if we had just declared the number to guess, or the random number, as a local variable, it would not be accessible to us down here. But because it's at the class level, it's also accessible in this method here. Okay, so finally I'm just going to have a very simple print menu method, which I'm going to just copy and paste in here, very similar to our one from last week. So just ask them to choose an option, number 1 to play the game, number 2 to print the high score, number 3 to exit. And I put a system.out.println at the end there, just prints a blank line just to create a bit of space after the end of the menu. And actually I'm also going to do the same thing up here after we give them a message. As a result of their guess, we'll just create 2 blank lines, just for the purposes of spacing, just so the text output in our game is easy to read. So the next thing is to write the main program, which is going to be the class which this basically captures the user's responses and keeps running the game, so in a while loop, until they decide that they don't want to play the game anymore and they wish to exit. Okay, so we have our main method here. So as usual, let's decide what variable we need to declare, or variables we need to declare in here. So before we do that, even actually we'll just declare some constants up the top here. So these are constants which correspond to the menu choice made by the user. Now I've made these private static as opposed to public static because they're only going to be used within this class. Also an important point to mention is that if you are referring to class level variables from a static method like me, they must also be static. They cannot be regular variables which are non-static. Okay, so if we leave those constants there for a moment, let's declare a variable here which will capture the user's menu choice. Again, we'll default that to 0. Next we'll create a scanner as usual. And import our java.util.scanner up the top. So let's write a welcome message to the game to kick us off. So we'll say welcome, and just to show that we can access the constant from the other class, say please enter numbers between 1 and, here we will concatenate on the game dot max number. So that shows there that we can access public static final variables within the game without creating an instance of the game. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is prompt the user for their menu choice. Before that, we need to display the menu, and to display the menu we need to call the print menu method of the game. And if we want to use methods of the game, we have to create an instance of the game. So the game equals new the game. So now we can do game dot print menu. If you remember, we'll print out and choose an option: 1, play the game; 2, print high score; 3, exit. So we can capture our choice into the user's menu choice variable by using keyboard.nextInt. So they've now chosen 1, 2, or 3, or they may have chosen an invalid option. So as we did in the previous lab, we want our while loop to keep going while the user menu choice is not equal to, and in this case we can use a constant rather than just a number. It reads a bit easier. So while the user's menu choice is not equal to exit. So here if it comes into the loop, they would have chosen something other than exit. So we want to see what they've chosen. So we do a switch on user's menu choice. So the first case is that they have chosen to play the game, and in that case we want to call game, which is our instance of the game, and call the play the game method, and put our break there as usual at the end of a case statement. The next one would be to see high score, or be the number of guesses that they've got correct in a row. So there we do game dot number of guesses in a row, again using a method of game. And finally default. So this covers anything else. So this is kind of the same as else in an if statement. So here we can just print out invalid choice. Again, as per last week, when we come to the end of a while loop, in the case of a program like this where we've got a menu being thrown up as many times as the user wants, so we can keep going and choosing from that menu until they decide they want to exit. So we print the menu for them again and capture their choice. Okay, so it comes back up here. If it's not exit, it goes in again. If it is exit, the while loop finishes and we print out goodbye. So if we run our program, we get our menu up here. So let's do, for example, one print high score, which presumably tells us we've got 0 guesses in a row. The last value you guessed correctly is 0, which is fine. So 1, play the game. Please enter your guess. Say 2. Okay, unlucky, we were wrong. Try playing again. Enter your guess. And so on. Okay, so we can keep playing the game until we guess correctly, which I haven't done here. So when you're done, hit exit and it says goodbye.